This is the hockey podcast, the hockey recording. So I have
I feel like you should add a goal horn in here for when you actually release the episode.
um you may be pleasantly surprised when you hear the episode. I already have my music all picked out, and spoiler alert, it involves a goal horn. So there's that. Anyway, so this is a very special, very specific episode of Bullshit Hour. We're here to talk about hockey, and we are right before the end. What's today? Wednesday. So there's 2 more days in the season, and here to talk with me about that is Mr. DJ Nick. Nick, how you doing today?
Hey, John, doing well. Thanks for having me on. Though I don't really have a dog in the fight, I'm always happy to talk hockey.
It is, but you'll soon find that you have something in common with Dan Hulley in this discussion. Speaking of, we also have Dan Hulley. How are you, Dan Hulley?
Doing well, John. How are you?
I'm great. Okay, so I will reveal what the two of you have in common, and that is that both of you do not need to wonder what is going to happen in the playoffs. Dan, you know your team is in first place, and they'll be playing the last place wild card, whoever that may happen to be. Nick, your team, my condolences, has been eliminated from the playoffs. I was hoping for you. I'm not even gonna lie, because when I saw that there was something of a chance, like a few weeks ago, I was like, hey, maybe they'll make it. Unfortunately, they did not. But here I am. I'm the Devils fan of the group. I'm the lone Devils fan. I asked my brother if he wanted to be on. He's also a Devils fan, and he knows a lot more about the technicalities and the backgrounds of the sport. So I would have said, okay, you talk for me, you be my lawyer. But he said he couldn't do it. So here I am on my own. I don't know. Still, with 2 days left in the season, we don't know who the Devils are playing in the playoffs. As of right now, it's the Rangers. But tomorrow, it could be the Islanders, it could be the Penguins, it could be the Panthers. We don't know. So that's something for me. Anyway, get this let's get this discussion started. Dan, have you ever been disappointed with the Bruins this season?
This season? No,
Yes.
not even a little bit.
Not even. Not,
It's it's been just a constant upward trajectory because even when I was feeling, I don't know, I was never feeling hopeless this season.
Yeah.
Maybe the preseason when, Marchand was going to be out for months and McAvoy was going to be out for months, and and it's like, oh my God, what are we going to do? We just need to get through to November. And well, they just started winning and never stopped.
They never did. Yeah. I came into the season. Uh, so I'm a relatively new NHL fan. I just started really getting into it this season. I went to my first game in November, which is what, like a month after the season starts. Is that it? A
Yep.
couple months.
Yep,
Yeah.
correct.
So yeah, I was at the game where I think they broke some kind of record where they had like won 10 games in a row, the Devils. Uh, and that was against the Oilers, the Edmonton Oilers. And that was a couple of days before Thanksgiving. And since then I was like, hey, hockey's cool. Let me keep doing this hockey thing. And and it's cool because it has its ups and downs. And you're like, you just never know what it's going to be. Before that, for me, it was like I would pay to go to concerts or plays or whatever, where it's like everyone is there for one purpose, and no one is going to be disappointed. And if anyone's disappointed, everyone's disappointed. Nick, you had told me, because you live in Milan, Italy, you had told me why you're a fan of the Montreal Canadiens previously, but I don't remember why it was.
Well, as it tends to be with me, it was all about the ladies because
Mhm.
at the time I was dating a woman from Montreal, And at the time, I had never really watched hockey in my life. And so when I went to visit her in Montreal, she said to me, as of today, your team is the Canadiens. I'm like, all right, okay, because I didn't have any affiliation with any particular team.
Totally
So,
reasonable.
exactly. And funnily enough, the first game that we watched together was actually against the Bruins. So obviously, the historical rivalry right there. And I fell in love with the sport. And after that, I went and did my research, went back and read the history of the Montreal Canadiens, watched tons of documentaries so I could be sort of up to par with everything that was going on. And then, yeah, it's just been a passion ever since. Now my two favorite sports are hockey and football, or as you guys know over there, soccer.
We call it soccer here. Yeah, I mean, I guess soccer and hockey do have somewhat similar organizations. One of them is played outside, and there's no ice skates involved, but there's offsides and all that stuff.
I mean, all the hockey guys are warming up by playing two-touch these days before games. So,
right.
I mean, there's that.
It would be very exciting in the NHL if you had relegations like you did in football.
Right.
Because there you literally have the bottom teams fighting to where if you finish dead last, you get relegated to the lower division, which is what happens in football. That would make it more exciting.
Every professional sport.
And then, say a team that comes top of the class in the AHL goes up to the NHL because, like 3 teams go up to the higher division. So it would make it really interesting, I think, if they did that, because at the end of the day, other than, the drafts, which are important, there's no kind of thing of like, oh my God, these 3 teams or 4 teams are going to go down and these 4 teams are going to come up. So it could make for a very interesting scenario, I think, if they did that. But, I doubt it's ever going to happen.
I mean, you've got the Arizona Coyotes, who are pretty much an AHL franchise as it is anyways, but
are they?
Ooh, yes, pretty much.
They're currently playing in a college arena that seats 5,000 people.
Yeah.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I'm kind of. Yeah, I mean, there's been talk about them apparently getting moved at some point because it's like the market's just not there. But
they're gonna get moved to the celebrity theater in Phoenix, Arizona.
The NHL likes to keep them propped up because they've got this obsession with non-traditional hockey markets.
Yeah, exactly, like Texas and like Tennessee and like Florida.
And that is why I wanted to be on with the two of you, and like I said, have someone like my brother on. Because I like the sport. I know the rules. I kind of know the players. Beyond that, I don't really know much about it. I didn't know that the Arizona Coyotes play in a college arena. That's something, man. It really is.
Even better, do you want to know the name of the arena? It's the Mullet Arena.
I did know that. And that's you know what? Some of these arenas have really stupid names. Like I don't know who plays where, but like I hear some of these names and I'm like, what kind of a name is that? Like there's the crypto.com arena. Why don't you just call it the crypto arena? I don't understand.
I mean, that's all of sports currently.
It's all about this. It's whatever sponsor owns it. I mean, here, like in football, they actually the stadiums have names after either famous players or after famous presidents or what have you. But there is rumor that eventually that might go away and corporate will take over. And like, I don't know, San Siro, which is where my team Inter Milan plays, might end up becoming the Sony Forum, for example. I hope it never does. But yeah, here it's usually there's been that tradition of naming stadiums after famous players or famous presidents. Right? Like, for example, Napoli, with Diego Maradona passing away, has now become the Maradona Arena.
Ah, all right. Yeah, they've kind of done that. I don't think it used to be that way with sports arenas. Now every arena, with the exception for some reason of like Yankee Stadium, Madison Square Garden, every arena is named for some company or some business. They even changed Shea Stadium to Citi Field and Tropicana Field in Florida. And it's like, hey man, that maybe Infinite Jest isn't so far off. Maybe we're working to it. Maybe we're building to it. For those of you who are not familiar, Infinite Jest, calendar years no longer go by number, but they go by like the year of such and such a product, which is basically just it's almost like another 1984, but somehow more disturbing than that. Yeah.
So, yeah. I mean, it's
Yeah.
like it was like for the Canadians, we had the Montreal Forum for the longest time until Bell came along and decided to say, okay, we're going to move the team from the Montreal Forum to the Bell Center. And, some of the greatest memories of the Canadians were made in the Montreal Forum.
Yeah. Well, one of the parks that remains unchanged is Fenway Park. I believe that is the oldest baseball stadium in America, right?
Yeah, and the seats are proof about how old and uncomfortable it is. It's all about nostalgia at Fenway Park.
Or the oldest remaining stadium, I think I should say.
It's
yeah.
I'm going to say this. I'm a New Englander, and I hate the Boston Red Sox with a fiery passion.
Is that because of the seats in the stadium?
It doesn't help.
Wow. All right. So I was in, because, this is the kind of thing that I do. I was in an antique store today. I like to look at old stuff. And among some of the stuff that was there, this guy has like a collection of antique glass bottles. And I'm like, that's an interesting thing. Like, how do he amassed there's probably about 100 bottles just kind of displayed with price tags ranging from like $15 to $100. And you got to know about bottles to want to pay for these things. But anyway, I digress. I go to this counter because this is he's an antiques guy. Antiques guys love to talk to people. So I go and I see that he has an autographed Bruce Driver card. I don't know if you are familiar with the name Bruce Driver. He played on the Devils in the mid 80s to the mid 90s, I believe, or early 80s to the mid 90s. He might have been one of the original players on the team. So it's an autograph card with an autographed puck. And I said to him, I asked, I was like, is that a game used puck? And he goes, yeah. I'm like, why do I feel like you don't actually know the answer to this question? He's like, yeah, sure, it's a game used puck. Yeah.
All pucks are the same, game used or not. They're all exactly the same.
Wait, are you being sarcastic?
No, I was being very sarcastic.
Okay, all right, I got you. Yeah, because again, I don't know what regulation pucks look like, and the pucks that they sell in the gift shop, they're like, okay, yeah, these are not game used, but they are pucks commemorating the Devils.
So generally, a game puck will have who versus who on it and the date for the game pucks printed on it. So there is actually a difference between a game puck and what you would buy in the gift shop, even though what you get in the gift shop is an actual hockey puck.
Right.
It's not the same as they're using in the game.
I think, I mean, I never knew that for a fact, but I was like, they've shown close-ups of the puck like on TV, and I think I've noticed that like they have like the two teams logos on it. As far as like the pucks used, I just mean like, do they make them differently when they're souvenirs, or are they the same, just they haven't been used in the games?
I'm pretty sure the souvenir pucks are the same.
Okay.
And they may be a different brand, but they are legitimate actual hockey pucks because
you could play hockey with them if you wanted to.
Right.
Yeah, if you had a pond, an ice pond, just like in the good old days in the 1800s.
Playing shinny on the pond.
My brother and I, we used to play hockey in our parents' basement when we were children. We used a mayonnaise jar cover, and we had these little kitty hockey pucks, and then I realized that hockey is a lot more than just a mayonnaise cover.
There's the quote of the episode: hockey is a lot more than a mayonnaise cover.
That is true, yes. And that maybe, you know what, I think I'm gonna name the episode "Hockey is a Lot More Than a Mayonnaise Cover." You heard it here. Dan Hulley named the episode. All right. Well, as we speak, I am watching the Montreal Canadiens and the New York Islanders on my television. Nick, are you doing the same?
Yes, indeed, I am.
You got the same thing. Are you? I don't know if we're at the same part. I got 1840 right here on my screen.
Yeah, same here. Yep.
All right. Anyway, what's cool about this? The timing is great because as of right now, with 18 minutes and some odd seconds left in the third period, score being 3-2 Islanders. We don't know if the Islanders are going to be in the playoffs. In approximately 40 minutes time, we will know whether the Islanders are in or out. And that's what's cool about the game, man. It's just this, like, what do you even call it? Just a skim of the skim.
Skim?
Exactly.
Skim. Yeah, a skip of the skim.
Well,
it's a skim.
And we might not even know if the game ends, or rather, if the Canadiens should win, we don't even know what happens next. Because if the Penguins lose their game or win their game against Columbus tomorrow, it's still up for grabs.
True.
It all depends on whether the Islanders need 1 point to make it to the playoffs. If not, the destiny's in the hands of the Penguins.
As of right now, the Islanders are 1 point ahead of the Penguins, which puts them in the place for the wild card. So if the Penguins lose, then the Islanders keep it, even if they do not win here. However, if the game goes into overtime and the Islanders lose, I'm not sure how they make that decision.
Well, I mean, I guess mathematically it's a foregone conclusion, because even if they go to the playoff, if they go to the overtime, they just need the 1 point.
Right.
So they can take the 1 point. Even if they lose tonight in OT, the Islanders will go to the playoffs.
So even if the Penguins win and then they have the same number of points. Okay.
Yeah, exactly. They have to lose outright in regular time. So basically, if they lose in the third period, then it's pretty much done, because I think the Penguins won't lose against the Blue Jackets.
It's a nail in the coffin. The fucking Blue Jackets. Although I do have to give credit to the Blue Jackets. I just out of curiosity, whenever it was, a week ago, 2 weeks ago, the Blue Jackets played the Bruins. And that game went into sudden death. I was very surprised. Boston ended up winning, but in sudden death.
Yeah, the Bruins took their foot off the gas a little bit towards once they locked up the playoff spot, and
not when they played the Devils the other night. that is for damn sure. They took that game very seriously. So yeah. So I was talking to Nick before we started recording. I was talking about how I don't necessarily want the Islanders to win. Now, I have a lot of friends who live in Long Island. So, if the Islanders win, I'd be very happy for them that they're going to the playoffs. However, for me, we got the Devils, we got the Rangers already. Don't need another New York, New Jersey team in the playoffs, because it's just like everyone's too close together. And it sort of says, it sort of starts being like, can't we stretch it out a little bit? Can't we get Pittsburgh in? We got Miami, or whatever, like 45 minutes north of Miami. You got the Devils. We got it all going on. I want the Hurricanes to lose, and I want the Devils to win. And then that means that the Devils will not have to play the Rangers in the first round of the playoffs.
But it could make for a very exciting first playoff round. Rangers Devils, I mean.
It's going to be a bloodbath if that's
exactly. That is going to be total mayhem.
I 100% agree. Now, the reason that, look, ultimately, it doesn't matter, but I am going to be in attendance at the first two home games of the Devils playoffs. And if they're playing the Rangers, the Prudential Center is going to be lousy with Rangers fans. And it's just like, this is the kind of thing that I think about. You're going to go around, half of the audience is going to be wearing blue, half of the crowd is going to be wearing blue, half of the crowd is going to be wearing red, and it's just going to be like a mishmash. And then by the end of the night, it's just going to be purple, because everyone is just going to beat the shit out of each other. That's why I kind of hope we end up playing the Panthers or the Penguins if we must. Dan, you look like you're really deep in thought.
I was actually trying to find the Habs game on TV in the background. I was feeling left out not having it on.
It's not that interesting of a game. It's not
particularly exciting. No.
No, I have it on in the background here. Yeah. Well, find your Habs game. We can do it. Yeah.
I managed to stumble across Bulls Raptors, which is not particularly interesting to me as someone who hates basketball.
Where do the Raptors play?
Toronto.
Why do you have Bulls Raptors?
ESPN.
I see. Oh, wait.
Same here.
Do you have ESPN Plus, like the
That's where I'm kicking over to now.
Yeah, ESPN Plus. You're no, yeah, you are guaranteed to find it because you are not in the New York area. So yeah, so you'll be able to watch it.
The NHL is the worst with local blackouts out of any of the major sports leagues.
It's if you live in the United States,
right?
Because
yeah.
on the old continent we have access to every single game because obviously we don't have those channels. But yeah, I never understand what the point of blackouts is. I guess it's because local stations air the games and so they have the rights to them. Yeah. Is that how it works?
That's a big part of it. I prefer my local broadcast for when they're on Nessun because I like the local play-by-play guy and the local color guy, and it just, I don't know. I have not been impressed with national coverage this year. I think TNT's been awful. I think ESPN's been pretty awful with their choice of broadcasting teams.
Yeah, the good thing is, so I paid through the nose to get a Fubo subscription because I tried every other way, and it's like they will make sure that you can't see these games unless you pay through the nose. And when I say through the nose, it's like $70 a month. It's not like breaking my bank or anything, but I would prefer to not pay $70 a month to watch games, but whatever. I gave in and I did it. But I canceled my subscription because the playoff games will be on ESPN Plus, and that's a good thing.
And there's the final round is supposed to be all TNT or TBS for the final round of the Stanley Cup playoffs.
Oh yeah?
Yep.
Well, I mean, I think I could also watch it on ESPN Plus. I feel like if it's suddenly unavailable, that'd be kind of fucked up.
Looking at the broadcast schedule that was released today, say the final round is going to be on TNT and TBS exclusively.
Oh, well, whatever. I mean, I have access to TNT, so I'm okay on that one.
Yep.
This is also assuming the Devils even make it to the finals, which I would love it if it happened, but I'm not getting my hopes up too much for it because, there's a lot of pretty badass teams competing in this thing. Obviously, it's the playoffs. So
there's a lot of hockey to play, and that's why I'm trying not to gush about the Bruins, and I'm trying not to get my hopes way elevated about them.
Right.
And yeah, I mean, I can remember, so 2011, last time the Bruins won the Cup, I was sitting there game 7, and they had the lead with time ticking down, and I was dead silent, just absolutely terrified they were going to figure out a way to blow it.
But you do bring up a good point there, Dan, because the fact is, you might have had like a stellar season regular wise, but then the playoffs is like a whole new season.
Right.
Oh, right. Boy, yeah.
Everything's reset. And so everything changes, and also the style of play changes. I mean, I've seen like teams who like won their respective division by miles and they got kicked out in the first round.
Yep.
It happens. It happens sometimes. And that's just, it's like I've always said. Sometimes you have a bad game and, usually you don't, but sometimes you do. And maybe in the playoffs, you get a couple of bad games and then you're, suddenly you're behind 2 games and that's that pretty much. But I have seen teams come back from horrible, lose whatever, the horrible behindness. I'm doing really well with the words today.
Behindness.
Yes. And I have seen teams just fall from the top of the mountain. Maybe they become too complacent or whatever. So,
looking at you, Maple Leafs.
Yeah. Hey, Maple Leafs.
The Maple Leafs, the team who inevitably finds a way to puke on their shoes in every playoffs.
Oh, boy. So I recorded a podcast earlier today, and you didn't know this. You would have had no way of knowing this. This is now the second podcast I've done today where puke was mentioned. So
it's a twofer.
There you go. So, anyway, I wish all of the teams luck. I wish that everyone could win. I wish that we could all share the Stanley Cup, but mostly I want the Devils to get the Stanley Cup. And Dan, with any luck, the Devils will meet the Bruins in the Stanley Cup Finals.
It would be the Eastern Conference Finals.
Oh, right. No, I'm sorry. You're right. I'm sorry. Yeah. Yes. I was thinking.
Unfortunately, they can't meet in the Stanley Cup Finals.
All right. Well, then I hope the Devils make it to the Stanley Cup Finals, and better luck next year, Dan. But I really doubt that's going to happen. So, I mean, look, I don't want to be too pessimistic about it. Anything's possible. Like Nick said, It's a whole new season. I've seen the Rangers. They were down by 1 with like half a second left in the third period, and they score the goal, brings the game to overtime, and they win in sudden death. I've seen shit like that happen. I'm sure you have. I'm sure everyone has. And it's quite an amazing thing to watch. And I hope that a lot of that happens in the playoffs. I hope that these playoffs are fun and exciting and close, and not like one team is ahead by 6, whether it's your team or not, because that would make it less interesting. But
no, I'd kind of like the Bruins to win every game 6-0.
6-0, yeah.
6-0. Sweep every series. Yeah, I'm perfectly happy with that.
I'll say this: when a team is shutting out another team, by the end, it does become more exciting because you don't want the other team to score anything.
Yep.
So it does become fun. I've seen that happen to the Devils a couple of times. They won 7-0 against Philadelphia, and it's like, let's just keep it that way. So, any last final words of wisdom, Nick?
Well, the only thing I'm going to say is, since sadly the Habs won't be making to the playoffs, I guess I'm going to just be playing the hating game. I just pretty much kind of hate, looking forward to just cheering when a team I can't stand gets kicked out. I guess that's what it's going to be for me.
I mean, I hate to point out the favorites here, but you hate the Bruins and you don't have a problem with the Devils. So
I have to be honest. Yes. Yeah. I mean, as Dan knows, our teams respective teams can't stand each other. Right. As much as I can't stand the Bruins, and it pains me to say this, but I honestly, as I mentioned before, I think the Stanley Cup is the Bruins to lose.
Yeah.
Bruins to lose.
In the sense that the Bruins is to lose, in the sense that they are literally going to win it, and so they're the only ones who can literally lose it, if you will, when it comes
I see I understand. Okay,
if the Bruins is to lose. I predict, as I mentioned before, my prediction is final will be Bruins Avalanche, and the Bruins will take it.
Okay. Dan Hulley, with the lamp that looks like a bowl behind your head.
Still, yes. Still very much. As a Bruins fan, one of the great travesties in relation to the Canadians is that Carey Price never got to lift a cup. And I, as a hockey fan, am disappointed by that. And leaving that, in my pure Boston instinct, all I can say is give a hearty fuck the Habs.
I'll take it.
It's best friends and rivalry. You gotta love it. Now, me, as I said, I just really got into hockey this season. My team is the Devils, and I guess I just picked a really good season to get into it because they haven't made the playoffs in quite a few years, and this year, here we go. We're in it. So I hope they can at least win one round, and I can enjoy it. I can enjoy the postseason, bunch of games. As Dan said, there's a whole lot of hockey left to play.
Yep.
So,
and this is where it gets most fun.
Exactly. Of course. Even if the Devils do get eliminated from the playoffs, I'll still be watching because, it's just a great game to watch. I'm not a traditional fan in that I am also a Rangers fan. I am, I like teams based on places that I visited. Like I like the Kings because, I I enjoyed Los Angeles when I went there. The Sharks, I don't know. They're not very good. It was in San Jose.
Teal.
Yeah,
they're teal.
yeah. I mean, I was in
The
San
jersey's
Jose.
cool, but the team sucks currently. Sorry, San Jose fans.
Right. Yeah.
All downhill after they traded Brent Burns.
Yeah. Now, as for me, the New Jersey Devils, if I did not live in New Jersey, I would probably have no interest in the Devils because New Jersey is it's boring. It is. Nick, I know you had asked about this. You're like, why does New Jersey get such a bad rap? And it's because there's nothing here. You know, like we're not famous for anything. We're not really, you know, we're just kind of there on the edge of the here you go.
Well,
Take
Well,
yeah.
I mean, Springsteen,
Can't you guys claim
Bon
Springsteen
Jovi.
and Bon Jovi?
Yeah.
They came from here, but you know, they are not stationary landmarks here. They've been known to leave the state of New Jersey. So,
right, but I mean, but they were born there. I mean, you know, in country music, you guys have Clint Black, who is from there. So, you know.
All right. Well, I mean, either way, you know,
you guys do have two NFL teams that claim to be from New York but play in New Jersey.
Play in New Jersey, yes. That is quite the something. And also, we have the New York Red Bulls, who also play in Newark, New Jersey. The soccer team, or as Nick would call it, the football team. And you know, so I like watching that, and I get used to the players because I watched other teams. I like, even if the Devils or the Rangers aren't involved, I still like watching the teams because it's fun to see all the different colors. It's fun to see all the different players and like the styles and like the way the stadiums look. I just really like that. I like it as a I guess an art, or whatever it is that I call it. I am not one of those fans who will like hate on other teams and say fuck your jersey, fuck your Rangers hat, or you know, Devils hat or whatever. I got snuffed one time. I played a show at this bar, and when we were done, the Rangers game was on. I was wearing my Devils hat, right? The Rangers scored a goal, and the people at the table that was next to me were all like cheering. I went to high five them, and one of the guys was like, "You're wearing a Devils hat. I'm not high fiving you." And I was like,
"Wow,
yeah."
That's cold.
His friend high fived me, and he was like, yeah, cool, man. Like, don't worry about it. I was like, I didn't say this to him, but I was like, wow, you're kind of an asshole, aren't you? And funny enough, for the rest of the night, he refused to make eye contact with me. I was like, yeah, okay, sure. That
savage.
All right, yeah. That hurts me. Let me tell you, I felt that right in my heart. So anyway,
heck, I'd be happy to sit side by side with Dan at TD Garden watching the Habs play the Bruins. You know, I could do that.
One of my bucket list items is to get up to a game in Montreal. So,
hey man,
there you go,
and there it is.
And I have no personal ill will. It's all in good fun.
And yeah, of course it is. It's, at the end of the day, it's a bunch of people with sticks knocking around a rubber cylinder. You know,
with knives on their feet. Don't forget the knives on their feet.
With knives on their feet. Get it past the guy who's dressed in clothing twice his size, and you're good. And it's like, really, if you really, 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 really think about it, it's like, why does it matter? But but at the same time, it's like, it takes such amazing skill, such amazing precision that
that's kind of sports in a nutshell.
Yeah, pretty much. Like, okay, like describe baseball. Someone hurls this like rock hard thing at you, and if you're lucky, you don't get hit with it. And if you're really lucky, you can hit it in the opposite direction. Cool. Start running in a circle. All right.
The same goes with football. It's lads in shorts kicking a sphere around.
There you go. And then there's one left, one of the main four. We have a giant orange sphere that we're going to throw up in the air, and if we get lucky, it'll go through the hoop. Cool. And this franchise makes millions upon millions upon millions upon millions and billions of dollars and all that. And you know what? What can I possibly say? It works. And if I made all that money doing that, call me unintelligent then. Cool. All right. And on that note, Nick, where can people find you?
Well, if you are into country music, you can find me hosting the radio show Whiskey and Cigarettes, where we play today's country, traditional country, and everything else in between. For more info about that, you can visit our website, which is whiskeyandcigarettesshow.com. Podcast-wise, if you're fans of superhero movies, myself and Keith Bliss and assorted guest co-hosts can be found on Happiness and Darkness, the superhero movie podcast, where, of course, we review all superhero movies under the sun. And finally, myself, Zan Sprouse, and Rachel Friend can be found on Gold Standard, the Oscars podcast. We're reviewing all Best Picture winners in chronological order. And this week, actually, as of this recording, we will be taking on Ron Howard's A Beautiful Mind from 2001. Oh, and finally, I do have to mention, myself and Charles Skaggs can be found on Titan Talk, as we'll be taking on the last 6 episodes of the CW TV show Titans.
Excellent. All right. Dan Hulley, do you want
you can find Yeah, people can. I mean, do people want to find me is the bigger question.
I'd like to find you.
But yeah, you can find me, as far as podcasts are concerned, as one of the rotating hosts of Star Trek The Undiscovered Podcast on Twitter, STTU Podcast. You can find me personally on Twitter at bland_dull_don't, or searching Facebook for Daniel Hulley. There's only like 4 of us. I'm the bearded guy asleep in my picture.
Also, don't forget to spell Hulley, not Hullly. Yes. Well, yeah, because I didn't even realize it until somewhat recently that there's an E in there. So,
yep.
Right. And as for me, John Seymour on Facebook, JON_SEYMOUR. I am now sitting behind a drum set and wearing a Mickey Mouse shirt. So you find the Mickey Mouse, you find me, because there are 18 million John Seymours on Facebook. So that's the one that I am. And I always promote Star Trek The Undiscovered Podcast, but you have done that quite nicely. And don't miss Mad Tea Party playing at the Patriot Lounge in somewhere in New York. I'll add that to the description. It's I'm sorry, Patriot Lounge in Stony Point, New York. We're playing April 14th. We're starting at 8 p.m. And yeah, great show, not to be missed if you can help it. And I guess that about does it for this special hockey-themed episode. So I would like to thank DJ Nick and Dan Hulley.
You.
And I will say good night. Good night.